York Governor Andrew Cuomo was grilled by lawmakers over his nursing home COVID policies during a 2-hour hearing before the GOP-led House Select Subcommittee on the pandemic. Cuomo vehemently defended his record on COVID, which includes the controversial directive during March of 2020 to readmit COVID patients back into nursing homes. He also apologized to families impacted by COVID while blaming Donald Trump. Let's watch.
Thank you. First, to the families of the victims here today and across the country, I am sorry for your loss, and I believe you are owed an apology because this country should have done better. There is no reason why we lost 1.2 million people, more than any country on the globe, when we have the most sophisticated medical system. This committee must deliver real answers so it never happens again, and I am here today to help in that mission. As you know, New York was hit first and worst by COVID through no fault of its own. I did daily briefings, and millions listened in because they because they needed information and guidance. And yes, I often vehemently disagreed with President Trump because from day one, he willfully deceived the American people, denying COVID's very real threat, telling us that it was like the flu, it would go away by Easter, it was a Democratic hoax, use Clorox. And his lies and denials delayed our response, let the virus spread, and this country never caught up.
In a fiery exchange, Republican Representative Elise Stefanik questioned Cuomo about his $5 million book deal. Let's watch.
My question to you is, when were you negotiating for your multi-million-dollar advance deal for your book as seniors were dying in nursing homes? That is the question in front of you.
You can't make up facts, Congresswoman.
You're the one making up facts. You're the one who undercounted nursing home deaths. You're the one who I want to ask right now. You apologize today, but there are families sitting here. I want you to turn around, look them in the eye, and apologize, which you have failed to do. Will you do it?
This is not about political theater. It's
no, this is about accountability.
Why did 1.2 million Americans die? Why did more Americans die than any country on the globe?
You're the former governor who's disgraced under oath.
Why did you let the president lie to the people of the United States?
This executive order was under your name.
Marjorie Taylor Greene also took shots at Cuomo and his former aide in his administration who was recently charged for actions that benefited the Chinese government.
Are you either the dumbest tool of the Chinese government, or did you know for a fact that you were being used by the Chinese spy that was working for you?
I've read a lot about you too, Congresswoman. I think this is a very serious matter.
It is serious, that's right.
She was a junior member in my team. I wouldn't recognize her if she was in this room today. But I think it is a serious matter. I don't think this was just in New York. I think there is an infiltration of Chinese, maybe Russian operatives.
The Democrat Party's definitely had a problem with Chinese spies. Yes, you're right.
Fiery indeed. So it looks like Andrew Cuomo was not having an enjoyable time there. Deservedly so, answering questions about his COVID policies, which we've criticized numerous times on this show. You know, not just readmitting people who had COVID who were stable but positive for COVID back into nursing homes where they could infect the most vulnerable Americans of all. That's a policy that, of course, was at the federal level and that many states followed through on that as well. But what distinguishes Cuomo's behavior is that he wrote a book bragging about how he handled the pandemic, and he minimized the death toll in nursing homes in order to tell a more flattering story about how he handled everything, which ultimately led to was part of the reason he had to step down as governor, although there was also multiple sexual harassment type accusations against him.
Right. I wonder if Cuomo's book has an accurate telling of events, or if it's a little bit more embellished, a little bit more of a personal narrative. I could see it if it includes data of what the impact of his policies were in the state and what went into the decisions being read by other heads of state to do a better job making policies in times of pandemics or epidemics. maybe to learn from the mistakes that are there, but to take a $5 million book deal after leaving office disgraced because of how you lied about COVID deaths, but also because of the sexual harassment and assault allegations against you. It's just shocking that someone in American politics can continue to have a career after this. And that exchange with Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, was very funny. The way he said, "Yeah, I've read about you too." And then they go on to say it's a very serious matter, though. I think he handled that actually well, talking about, the operatives and infiltration in the country that we have and that it's a serious issue. I don't know if that was a nod to the recent investigation of right-wing influencers like Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, and Benny Johnson around the Russia allegations. But I thought he handled that line of questioning pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, there's no getting around the fact that there was someone being paid off by China to thwart Taiwanese access to the governor, to officials. This has been more a problem under Hochul, where this person had a more senior role. We've come to understand. I suppose we can perhaps take Cuomo at his word that he didn't really know who she was, and she was a lower level person. At that time, she's been a higher level person for Hochul, being paid by China to thwart Taiwan policy. There has been this infiltration. It was actually glad to hear him acknowledge it. Infiltration, certainly by China. The Russia stuff, I think, has been somewhat exaggerated. Now, we did have this influence operation en masse where they paid Russia Today was using Russian funds to secretly pay, without their knowledge, as you point out, Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, millions of dollars. Of course, they didn't know where the money was coming from, and it's not like they suddenly developed the views they had, right? They were sharing views that are being described as pro-Russian or soft on Russia or whatever it is. They had those views anyway, and those views attracted financing from the Russian government. It's not like they were, rah Ukraine one day and then, oops, now we got a check from Russia. We've changed what we're saying. So it's a little bit different kind of influence campaign.
Yeah, we'll see what comes out of this investigation into Sun and her husband. I think that, maybe the New York government was going to do that anyway, Robbie. They were just profiting off of decisions that would have already been made. I think it is fascinating that perhaps Tim Pool and Dave Rubin and Benny Johnson, and actually many others, some in Canada, that were involved with tenant media, that it might come out that, yes, they absolutely had no idea this was a Russian-backed firm. A lot of them have already denied it. We'll see what the court documents show, what those meetings were like. $100,000 is definitely not market rate for what they were up to. But I think if we're going to be upset about this kind of foreign interference, so much so that we're having a hearing about the handling of the pandemic and Cuomo hiding the death toll of elderly people in homes in New York, that if that's a time where you're going to bring up Chinese influence and this staffer that was well established to not be high up in Cuomo's office, it's shocking that that's that important. But AIPAC's influence on our government is not. That's what's really jarring today. And a lot of people are showing their hypocrisy there by being more upset about this than they are with the blatant influence of a foreign government.
We'll be back with more Rising right after this.